You're wondering if that was even the same saw. I know, I can't even believe it turned out this good. This is my really old Milwaukee model 6230 portaban. Portaban is short for portable bandsaw, just in case you were wondering. Now anytime I take a screw off here, it goes into these boxes. If there's a chance that I could mix it up with one of the other screws, I go ahead and put a piece of paper in there with the location of the screw. This was one of those instances where you respond to a classified ad, show up on the seller's doorstep, look the item over, agree to purchase it, and then they go, "Hey, by the way, are you interested in any other shop items?" I had no intentions of buying a bandsaw the day that I came home with this one. I was there to buy some other items, and the guy threw this one in the deal for $20. I've owned this saw for probably 6 or so years, and I definitely didn't make it look like this. It had been worked over pretty good by the time I got a hold of it. The cord has been mangled beyond recognition. The switch was fused in the on position, therefore it has always been plug and play for me. The case had a big chunk knocked out of it, and at some point somebody tried to repaint it and shot it with some red and gold. It's never seen more than intermittent use in my shop, but it's proved reliable, handy, and hard to kill. Therefore I decided it was worthy of spending a little bit of money and investing a little bit of time to bring it back to its original glory. Maybe you're wondering how you decide if it's worth saving or if it's destined for the scrap heap. Well, I'll tell you how I came to the decision. This is just one of the Scotch-Brite blue bristle brushes. The first thing that I would do is acquire the model number and compare prices to similar but turnkey tools. Tools that are ready to go to work immediately. That's going to be your base point. That's how you're going to decide how much money is worth investing in this tool. My local ag supply shop has a consignment table, and I located the exact same saw on the table with a price tag of $140. I also browsed eBay and was able to locate identical saws for $120, $130 with free shipping to my door. So now I've established a baseline or a budget for this project. Next, I can figure out what parts I need to replace and come up with a total cost. So my parts list or to-do list for this saw was a new cord. The switch is not functional, so I need a new switch. And while I'm at it, I'm going to replace the tires. I'm going to put a new blade guard on. And it would be really nice if I could replace that cracked case. Fortunately for me on this particular saw, both wheel bearings were really tight. That's a normal wear item, and once they're worn out, the blades will not stay on the saw. The aluminum case was cracked over top of one of the wheels. Fortunately, it didn't affect functionality, but it certainly didn't look good either. Now that item is way too expensive to replace, so I'll be trying my hand at TIG welding it. The switch on this saw was completely shot and unusable, unrepairable. Unfortunately, the saw is old enough that it takes a retrofit kit because the original switch is out of production. Fortunately for me, the kit comes with the new switch and the cord, two items that I need to replace. So we're in pretty good shape on the budget. It looks like I can afford some new paint. That's coming along nicely. Let's see what we can do with this cracked out case. This is that cracked out piece. I'd like to try to repair it. We'll see. This broken out piece of the case had absolutely no bearing on the functionality of the saw. For me, this was purely a matter of pride. I'm lucky enough to own a welder that will pulse TIG in AC, which is exactly what this case will require. For the repair, I'll be using some 6061 by 1/8 inch plate stock. and some 4043 aluminum filler rod. Or if you're using metric and are across the sea, you know it as aluminium. Either way, the process will be pretty much the same. I've estimated the piece, roughed out the shape, and dry fit it in place. With a little bit of fine tuning here and there, it looks like it just might work. Once it's satisfactory, I can clamp it in place, fire up the welder, and go to work. I certainly don't claim to be any type of TIG welding expert. With no formal education and the basis of what I do know being comprised of hands-on experience and things that I've been able to pick up here on YouTube, I was a little nervous jumping into this repair. But when it came down to it, all in all, it turned out pretty well, and I'm very happy with the results. Okay, now what I've done is I've taken the blade guard, mocked it up in here, and scribed a small line. And I've lined this side up here. And now I'm just going to take a piece of file folder, thick cardboard paper, and I'm going to lay it on here. And I'm going to trace that line, and that's where I'm going to cut this. This saw was most likely all raw aluminum except for the plastic handle when it came from the factory. Therefore, I decided to scratch off and remove all of the paint on this back piece. I will be running that red accent color on the front wheel housing only. Considering the massive amount of dirt and grime that was on the exterior of this saw, I decided it would be prudent to take it apart and make sure that the inside was well cleaned also. I'm going to put a reference mark here. I admit I've done my fair share of projects where I had a handful of parts left over at the end, and one thing I've learned is you can never be too careful when disassembling any type of project. Therefore, I'll be doing everything I can to keep all my parts in order. I'm going to spray this out with a little bit of brake clean and clean all that out. Alright, we've got the armature here with the gear reduction. This grease in here is in really good shape. I see absolutely no reason to mess with that. All that I'm going to do is flip this over and clean off some of this buildup that's on this side. You know, I buy these brushes here at the dollar store. You buy a 3-pack. You get one stainless, one copper, and one black bristle brush for I think about $2, $2.50, something like that. And after a project, you don't feel so bad throwing them away. There's no reason I'm going to spend time and $3 worth of acetone trying to clean a 70-cent brush. This is one of the brush holders here. I'm just cleaning off some of this corrosion on here. This is where the tray with all the little compartments and labels of screw locations is going to really pay off. Okay, I've got my brush here. I made a small red dot on one side and a small red dot on the brush. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, clean up my workbench, and bring in my painted piece. Turned out nice and pretty. And that brings us to our retrofit kit. You can see the new handle and the new cord there. I'm not sure how popular or how commonplace these saws still are, but in case there is anybody out there that's trying to deal with a retrofit kit, I did want to touch on the wiring and what's entailed. My kit came with a new wire to splice in between the motor and the new switch. Okay, I've got my switch here. Now, according to the instructions that I have, the white is going to go in this front circle port, white, and the red is going to go in the square port opposite the screw. And on this back screw, the black is going to go in the front circle port, and the yellow is going to go in the back square port. Alright, let's test it out. Now this was the piece here that we replaced, and you can see how nice of a fit up that is there. Now this front one gets the screw and the washer, apparently, because the front slides back and forth. That's why this hole is slotted here. That's what tightens the blade. But I think I'm going to lose that washer. I'm not sure if that was OEM or if somebody put that on there at some point. Okay, our handle. And I'm going to quick clean this handle up here a minute on my bench grinder or on my wire wheel. Replacement handles are still available through Milwaukee, but these still being 100% functional and only slightly ugly, I opted not to break the budget and retain them. Okay, and last but not least, we have our handle here, which I'm also going to clean up. The old tires were still functional. This was purely preventative maintenance. I opted to put on the new tires instead of being stranded by the old tires. All in all, this project turned out great. I've used the bandsaw a few times on a few different projects since, and it's performed exactly like it should. The only downside in my mind is the switch itself. It seems a little cheap and sub Milwaukee quality, but other than that, I'm very happy.